dun, dun, dun. Bum, bum. Boom, 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 boom.
You actually had something. I was just making sound.
Went with it.
I like it.
We just got back from Banff, and I'm finally rested and feeling myself again. So that was fun to bring that energy out.
I'm tired.
I know you had to jump and do
weekend.
a lot more work.
It was an exhausting weekend.
Yeah, lots of fun, but really tired at the end.
Yeah, I don't think the weather helps with that either. Just being really cold and you're tense.
And by really cold, we mean like Calgary, Banff, really cold, which is minus 17, minus 25, minus 30.
It didn't get that cold while we were there.
No, well, today it was a high of minus 17, so
we're back home.
It's felt. And it's been snowing a lot.
If you want to talk about now, fuck no. Like, I've been bitching about it. So how about we talk about something fun? I don't want to bitch.
Yeah, let's talk about all the awesome movies that we saw there.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, okay.
Why were we in Banff?
Yeah. Because there's a mountain film festival.
The Banff Mountain Film and Book Festival.
Yep.
Where was the book part of that? I don't know.
I think a lot of it was more in conversations. They had the artists around, and they had, who was it, Rocky Mountain Books. We went into that room where they had their little table set up.
Oh, yeah.
They were in the marketplace and sponsoring some books and talk. I think it was a lot more discussions. I didn't look up as many of the book events because we were focused on the movies and the film events.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember seeing some conversations with authors and people in the book industry.
So this was your second time going?
Yes, and my good friend Brian Russell, who is the co-owner of Finestrino Film Company, a company that we started in Bellingham, Washington, to produce web content for businesses. Video content for businesses on our websites.
And weddings and other things.
Well, that was Willowcraft.
Oh, sorry.
Which was eventually folded into it, but yeah, we were most of what we did together was the commercial work through that. Yeah, and so this year I'm actually going to be stepping away from that because I don't like doing that much U.S. tax paperwork. So I needed to remove myself from the company. And when we had began the company, we had discovered the Banff Mountain Film Festival. So I think it was November 2015 or 2016 when we went for the first time. And it completely blew my mind about what documentary filmmaking can be, what like mountain films can be. Yeah, you're raising your hand.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I thought I'd be respectful by giving you a pause instead of, because I tend to just be like, but what? So my question is, because this was my first film festival ever of any kind, and I didn't know what was being, I didn't know what the films were. I didn't know they were documentary. I didn't know anything. So are the films usually similar throughout the years? That usually, the skiing and the snow and the mountains.
Yeah, the spirit of the festival is in stories around mountains and the outdoors. Now, that's not always the traditional, I climbed up some snowy peak or something. As we saw, there are lots of foothill areas or warmer weather mountains, or there's summer seasons in mountains. There's a growing environmental aspect to it as well. So I think that has been folded in because environmentalism is a big part of mountain culture anyway.
Protect our winters.
So even if it's, exactly. And even if it's not exactly a story set in the mountain, if it's dealing with themes of mountain culture, which are often community, very independent people pushing themselves in a physical manner, environmental concerns, or, stories involving, I think, cultures. And this year, I think the noticeable difference that everybody was addressing and talking about was, I think, stories of indigenous cultures and minority groups around the world. It was really beautiful to see it opened up so much more beyond mountain. Because I think last time it was very winter focused and definitely felt a lot more mountain centric. But I think when I grew up, there's this filmmaker, Warren Miller, and he made these ski videos. And it's basically just extreme backcountry skiing on crazy slopes. And that was always my idea of what a mountain film is. So when we went for the first time, and I'm seeing all these stories that are not about skiing, and it's people, I don't know, have like discussing this very spiritual connection to the earth and wanting to push themselves to achieve things that they didn't think they could do. And that really rang true to me in a very, I don't know, it was this like super deep inspiration that seemed to awaken something inside of me that I don't think I've ever experienced with any other kind of film or at any other film festival. Because the other ones seem to be so much more about the film market or winning an award. It's like about prestige or making money and selling your film. And this film festival feels nothing like that. It kind of feels like going back to camp with your friends or something, you know?
Well, I appreciated seeing it for the first time, still just the diversity, because if it were just snow, skiing, snowboarding, mountains, I would have not been able to relate at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't think I would either. That aspect gets kind of old even for me. You know, it starts to feel
bring
like
in
just
some new business.
yeah, it starts to feel like just watching a highlight reel of people's epic jumps and stuff. And you know, like it's kind of interesting for a minute, but then you're over it. So you really do need more story. Oh, pardon me. Yeah. So my friend Brian came up, picked him up Thursday night at the airport.
Late.
Yeah, very late. And then Brian and I tootled around Calgary because he had not been in Calgary. Wow, when was he there? Like 30 years or something since he had been here?
Yeah, because you guys didn't come to Calgary when you went to the Banff.
Nope. We drove straight to Banff from Bellingham. And yeah, so I got to show him around the city a bit, which was fun. And it was all covered in snow and very, stereotypical.
He was taking a
Calgary.
lot of videos and pictures and stuff on the way to Banff.
Yeah, I just took him around to some of my favorite points, that I found through my bike riding. But of course, we were driving the truck in the snow. And then once you got done with work, we headed out to Banff so we could check into our little Airbnb, nice little hotel, like a hotel
Airbnb.
suite in, well, it was in sort of a hotel-y kind of building, part of a hotel or something, in Canmore. And then we went to the first night of films.
Yeah, it was a long day.
Yeah,
me.
the film started at 7 something and got done at like 11 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, we went to bed. We were in bed after midnight, like close to 1, getting up early to get out in the next morning.
But I'm curious to hear from you because the first film that started playing there was the Creation Theory film.
Yep.
And I'm curious to hear what was sort of your first reactions to that as like an introduction to the festival, right?
Okay, so wait 1 sec here, which I think I say that a lot. Before that, the 4 films played that night, there was a conversation.
Oh, right. Yeah, with Vasu and Greg. I can't remember last names right now.
No, me either. And so, first of all, I was like, ugh. Snowboarding, skiing, it's just not something that's been in my life ever. It's something I've tried once and hated. So I just didn't know how that conversation is going to go. But if my opinion on the conversation, it was so much more, and I'll let you explain more about it. But I got a lot out of. It was a bit of a one-sided conversation, which was fine, but like it was Greg asking all the questions. We got to know about Vasu, and didn't really know anything about Greg, which is fine. But I thought the the world issues that Vasu brought up, other than just talking about skiing, was awesome. Please fill in the blanks.
I don't remember as much of the details of the conversation.
It was a long
but
conversation. It was a lot to take in at once, so I don't blame you, but I feel like you could just maybe add a little bit more than what I could.
yeah, well, Vasu is I forget the term that they used. But he lost one of his legs at, I want to say, was it 9 years old?
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, or very early.
9 months.
9 months. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it was 9 months. He was a baby.
Yeah, I think it was some kind of an infection, if I recall, and so it had to be amputated. But that hasn't stopped him from pursuing a love of skiing or hiking in the backcountry, and he's been out. Oh yeah, skateboarding too. He's been pushing the boundaries for athletics, and this is why I wish I could remember the term. There's a term that he wanted to use for what he does, but
we'll put in the show notes after something like we'll.
I didn't research well for this, but
we never do. We just want to talk about our experience. We can't remember some shit, but if we throw that in there, then people can look into.
Yeah, but I remember it was very interesting. His perspective comes from that of someone who is one of 10 people in the world, or maybe even less, who are out there in the mountains with that level of disability.
And he is helping actually make gear, create gear for disabled people.
Yep. And he's also Indian American, and he proudly represents his Indian heritage and culture, and wants to bring that awareness. And I remember he hates that word being inspirational, so I'm feeling a little blank in terms of what to say on that front. But I did admire, and it gave me the sense of, man, whatever problems I'm facing really aren't that big. And if this man has the grit and determination to go out and chase the things that he wants to do and put in the work with half of the leg that I have, wow, yeah, really amazing. I don't think we got to see any films with him in it there.
No,
I thought one was in the groups we were going to, but I'm going to have to circle back and look those up. I grabbed the brochure to make sure I can go back and see some.
We're playing though, because we saw a lot, but there was way more.
Yeah, and I think what was his next adventure? I want to say it was something with the 7 summits. He wanted to summit a mountain on every continent.
Yeah, something like that. And you know what? This is all out of my world and my language of that kind of stuff. So I appreciated watching the conversation, but I was lost.
Yeah, me too, to an extent. But it was enjoyable. They were wonderful, wonderful conversationists.
And regardless of what he said, he's still an inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Greg even said that to him in their talk. And then the films began.
Yeah, so, sorry, back to your question.
Yeah.
So the first, I didn't know what to expect. I was at that point thinking we were just going to see a lot of snow and skiing. And you know how I feel about that. But, and I feel like I'm going to butcher everything I say about these films. But this one caught me off guard at the beginning because it started so in your face, beautiful, galaxy, sparkly look to it.
Yeah, it was glittery ink what? And black.
I thought
macro work.
And also actually, so Griff, whatever his last name is he did the scoring for the film. He does the music, and he stars in it too. and he actually did some live mixing. What he called texturing while that
Yeah, he was
movie
playing the synth keyboard and adding music
Yeah, that was
to the
cool.
music already happening in the film,
That
but
was
doing
cool.
it live on stage with the film.
Yeah, so
Which-
the visual right off the back was like, oh, that's pretty. And then that sounds so nice. He's got great music, and he draws it his musical inspiration from nature. So we got to see a bit of him in that. But besides,
he does surfing as well. Surfing and music are his big loves.
so besides him doing the music, there was another guy who was surfing, and then two women who were snowboarding, and then was there someone else? No, I think that was it.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And they're in
Iceland. So surfing in Iceland, which is wow.
And I
don't know
just
how anyone
don't
survives
know
that.
how to explain the effects, but it was not your average like skiing documentary or snowboarding documentary, or even like I don't know. I had a lot of feelings that I can't even really explain, but I will so you're at the end of all the showings, you're supposed to vote vote for the People's Choice.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I remember telling you the one thing that bothered me about that was that it was a lot about Griff.
And the music.
And the way that they had announced it didn't sound like it was going to be all. I didn't even think he was actually going to be in it. And then I saw him and I'm like, okay. But what about everybody else? We get a tiny little bit of them. And that bothered me. I still voted for them just because I love the way they put the whole thing together.
It's
color,
very creative and
the
abstract
sound.
and modern.
What they were saying, how they felt. I was just like, this is too much of just him, though. That bothered me. What can you add to that? How did
I loved the concept of the film. They brought in cosmic elements because there was a narrator speaking over those parts, talking about space and time and relativity. And so they were playing with those three elements, like that you have space, you have time, and then you have an observer. And between those three variables, that's what creates your experience in the moment of your life. And they were trying to take, I guess, science and interweave that, I guess, theory of the universe with the creative process, which is where I think the music came in. Like, how do you find inspiration to the music? And then interweaving that creative process with achieving flow state when you're in a lot of these athletic types of things. So that was the surfing and the snowboarding. That was the athletes and finding flow. And, which is often compared to a kind of meditation. And, I think people often describe it as just a deep connection with the world, sort of a spiritual connection. So I think they were just weaving all of that together in one, like, what was it, 15-minute film or something like that. So
I don't know how long things were.
Short film, somewhere around there.
What was the second one, though? I'm blanking. I
honestly
remember
don't
the
remember.
first and the last.
Was it the Baffin Island Vacation?
Oh, shoot. How could we forget this? Okay, this one I probably even remember more of now that you say so. This one was so fucking cute. I really love the way that it started. What was it called? A Baffin Vacation?
Yeah.
Baffin Island Vacation.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you don't know where that is, it's in Nunavut.
Yep. It's a big island on the eastern Atlantic coast of Canada.
Yeah. And so this couple, it opens up like vintage, like, oh, where to take your family on a vacation? Go to Baffin Island. That's where you'll find love, or something. I don't know.
Like a 40s or 50s newsreel ad that plays in the
editing
theaters.
was cool. That was really fun. And they were hysterical. But So correct me if I'm wrong, jump in where I'm wrong. And the couple, Sarah and Boomer, they kayak and they climb
Rock climb.
mountains, rock climb.
Mhm.
And they were just going on this trip. They had planned a trip, and
A 45-day trip.
they were just like, let's just record what we do up there, and maybe we can get a film into the Banff Film Festival. So we better make a really good one.
Yeah.
And they did a great job, and they made it in there.
Yeah. And it was awesome. I loved the dynamic between them.
Yeah, they were definitely super, like, you wouldn't have been able to go on a truck like that if you don't have someone. And I think even Sarah wasn't too skilled or familiar yet with all the kayaking, and even both of them were a little bit fearful of even the rock climbing at points. So, but
Yeah.
they love pushing themselves and pushing each other, and I just thought they did a fucking fantastic job. They were fucking hilarious. Like they were so funny.
Yeah. And they were also there in person, which is another great aspect of the Banff Mountain Film Festival that I love. So many of the filmmakers come there, they talk about their film, and you watch it. And then you can also go meet them in the lobbies or go have drinks around town with them and get to know them if you so please. It's a really cool element of that festival.
To be very humble. This is just something they did. Obviously, that's what they said. And it just worked out.
Yeah, it's like they were going on that trip no matter what, but they decided, let's film it. And if we're going to film it, let's make it good enough to get in the festival.
I will say,
cool.
I was like holding in my pee watching Boomer go down this massive waterfall in a kayak.
Yeah.
And I don't get, I probably drown.
Yeah. Well, they mentioned he had a kayaking background. He'd been kayaking since he was like little, and his family had kayaked, I believe. So he was really well versed in the kayaking, and both of them were newbies to the climbing. So that was fun to see. I think it was fun to see him, helping Sarah push herself a little and get more skillful in the kayak. And then also to watch him cut loose and find the big dangerous things that are fun to him because he has a lot of skill and experience doing that. Mm-hmm. Which is, I think that's a really fun dynamic in the mountain world, is watching that, compassion and camaraderie of helping somebody push themselves a little farther. And then also, I don't know, I find it invigorating watching someone who has a lot of talent and skill at something just go for something big.
Yeah. And then also, being humbled by their struggle as well and not trying to hide that. I love that. Yeah.
The honesty there is really, really nice. And I don't know, was there anything else from that night? I don't remember any others that night.
I don't remember the third film at all, but I think the fourth one was Quanah?
Was that night? Okay.
Yeah, because the second night was when we went to see one of our favorite documentaries.
Yeah. I think you're right.
Quanah's story.
Quanah.
And
that was a really beautiful.
Quanah,
I voted
right?
for that one that night. Yeah.
Quanah.
I'm gonna grab the brochure here real quick.
Please.
Can you describe
help
it then?
us. Okay, so Quanah is there like a write up in there too?
Yeah. But just, yeah.
Because there's things that there's details I can't express, guys.
Yeah. Oh, it's called Walking Two Worlds. So I'll just read the write up here.
Yeah.
The mother-daughter duo, Jodie Potts and Quanah Chasing Horse, two powerful Hungwichin. I'm so sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Indigenous.
Yeah, indigenous in Alaska. Represent the decades-long intergenerational fight to protect the Arctic. The film follows Quanah as she pursues and achieves her dream of becoming an indigenous supermodel, breaking barriers of representation while walking in two worlds, her indigenous way of life and modern society. The intergenerational love for the land and one another is the visionary source of hope we all need. Like their ancestors, the Gwich'in are not giving up, and neither should we. I'm sorry for the mispronunciations.
It's It's okay. It's hard. Um, that was a cool story. Well, yeah, story. It's their story. I really loved seeing what they did in the Arctic. Like they live off the land.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You hunt for caribou and reindeer and
yeah, and then they also would be
I
in.
don't think reindeer in Alaska. Sorry.
I don't know. I don't know. Out there protesting, and that's how Quanah got noticed.
Yeah, well, they're building an oil pipeline up there, but of course everyone's opposed to because we don't need more pipelines.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but she also had that deep desire to be a model in the
She'd been posing
in the
like her whole
international
life.
modeling scene. You know, like at the
Mm-hmm.
top level of modeling.
What I thought was cool, her mom gives her native tattoos. So she's 19 in this film, and she's already got her some facial tattoos, earned her native tattoos, and what I like that she brings to the modeling world is that acceptance. Not trying to change herself, and she even asks the people she works with not to change her. Don't remove my tattoos, don't change my hair color, don't do this, don't do that, because that's what she was like picked for too, right? So that's what she's representing, and I think she does a really good job. But she was saying how hard it was because she feels it's really different, living in LA than Alaska, where don't have to work for anything. And I know she said she was really struggling with.
Well, I mean, it's a different work.
Okay,
right?
you don't.
Like,
yeah, you're not. She was missing her roots. She was afraid
Mhm.
she was going to forget everything she's learned,
Yeah.
and her heritage and her culture and her ancestry, and I can see that being really difficult, and I'd really like to see what happens in her life in the future and hope that she does not forget that stuff and succumb to that horrible world.
Yeah. Well, stay strong enough to keep that that self-preservation, I guess, of, you're hiring me for me and who I am. So you won't change me in these images, or, I really appreciate that. And I think we need more voices like that in acting and modeling fronts, or just public.
And for young people too, because she
Yeah.
is so mature for her age, because she's had to do things that most people don't learn ever in their life.
Yeah. I mean, you're living in a remote area where, like, you have to go, you have to bring in your own water supply.
Yeah.
You have to hunt for your dinner.
Yeah.
It's a totally different way of life. And it was heartbreaking also to see that moment when she came back. Remember, after there was the fires, and she comes back. So she comes back to Alaska from LA, and there had been a bunch of fires that wiped out a lot of the forest around where they live.
Yeah, their outhouse.
And I love the way they shot it, because you could really palpably feel the pain off of the screen that she was feeling. Like, she's already down in LA fearing that she will lose her heritage through that distance and lack of contact. And then I guess coming back and seeing it physically being destroyed too. And then adding that extra layer of stress of, oh my God, I might even just lose it physically because it could burn up or be, fucked with in that regard. And that was a really powerful moment.
And her mom is a powerhouse too.
Yeah, I love her mom.
My kids are all out doing their thing there, and she's incredibly supportive. But she belongs up, north where her life is.
Yeah.
She likes her quiet life. She likes to live off that land.
After going to LA,
Heck yeah,
I understand.
I know. Can you tell us what the third one was that we missed?
Oh.
Oh, is it not?
That was just them listed.
Shit.
Let me see though. When was
It obviously
Saturday,
wasn't that good in my mind if I can't remember even a little bit of it.
Friday Radical Reels. I don't think that was it. I don't know. We'll have to look elsewhere for.
Okay. Here, can I have that while you take us to the next day?
Yeah. Well, the next morning, we had to get up early and get there.
We still ended up getting out later than we wanted, though.
Yeah. So we arrived a bit late and we got some crummy seats. But I remember that first film that opened up, it was about the base jumper in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And that one was gorgeous. It was all in Portuguese with the subtitles, but it was so poetic. And we followed her through her process of, packing her chute and then getting up to the...
Sorry, it's packing the chute is very important to do it proper.
Yeah. And we follow that process. But as we're watching her do these things, we're hearing her speak about the intention and the discipline that she enjoys in this sport. I think one of the most powerful moments to me in that film was when she's standing on the edge, like waiting to feel that moment when she should jump. Because I've been up on really, high cliff edges and stuff, never in a position where I'm going to jump from them. And so I could only imagine standing there, waiting for the moment when you're going to leap off it. Because for me, even just standing there or I was sitting on the edge of the Grand Canyon at a place where, you're thousands of feet up above this river with nothing but sheer rock below. And I'm like, I can't believe someone would jump from this. Like, I'm just sitting here. And the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm thinking of how I'm going to get the fuck out of here without accidentally slipping. And so I couldn't imagine standing up on that and just thinking, and then I'm going to jump.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane to me, but so beautiful. I loved the way she described her connection with that sport and the air and that mountain itself.
I liked the scene where she's just standing there with her arms open and the wind blowing, and you can just see how comfortable and carefree and how authentic and all that realness. And it just made me feel like I need to breathe a bit more. Like I need to let go. Is something not working?
You're good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And just, it was just freeing.
Yeah. And then what was the second one? The second one was about the dams in Brazil.
It was Balkan Express.
Oh, right.
This is the day where Jake and I actually left early.
Yeah, but not for reasons of the films. We'll get to that.
Except that one. I will say, so the Balkan Express, here I just passed that. Shall I read what that's about?
Yeah, give that one a read.
Okay. Pardon me. So, it's in Germany. German mountaineers Max Kronig and Joachim Mesel, book a one-way train ticket from Munich to Thessaloniki and start their 2,500 kilometer journey back home by bike and ski.
That's in northern Greece.
They explore the mountains of the Balkans, looking for the most beautiful ski runs and sharing good times with locals along the way. It was 41 minutes.
Yeah, and it was like a 2,500 kilometer bike ride.
Yeah, I was falling asleep. I'm so sorry. Good job, guys. This is, I think that they said the second year in a row they were in the Banff Film Festival, and it was the most boring that we watched. I was bored. It needed
a little more attention to it.
I was so fucking bored. Like, I was so glad we were sitting at the wall at the back because I was falling asleep
And you didn't have any coffee.
Didn't have coffee. We didn't sleep long. I didn't sleep well. But also, it was really boring. It ended up winning something, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. I forget who
Yeah.
won an award. It was a fantastic journey. I think the filmmaking needed a little tightening up, but it was a spectacular idea, and I'm blown away by their ambition and I guess the scope with which they dream, because that's a huge undertaking that I can't imagine you just sort of dream up offhand one day with your buddy, you know? Like, that's a serious endeavor,
Oh, yeah.
especially to bike the whole way through mountains and snow. And yeah, a lot of coolness to it. A lot of coolness to it. A lot of, what was the, I did enjoy the soundtrack though. They had a lot of weird sort of, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like European house music or something. Sort of like indie pop Euro something. It was cool. I did like the music from that. But my favorite though was the one scene. I love this when they were at the snow hill in towards the end of their journey. I can't remember the country right now, but they were at this one snow hill, but there was like no snow.
Oh,
And he's
yeah.
sitting in the little hut there, and there's the phone, and he's like, ring, ring, and he picks it up. He's like, hello, can you please send snow?
It was funny.
I love those glimpses of humor in it, and learning a little, I guess, about that region. It's a funky area of the world that I don't know much about, but watching them traverse it made me want to learn a bit more about those regions and those countries. You know, like Greece, Kosovo, Albania, Macedonia, Montenegro. Seemed like a really cool bunch of areas to go to. Croatia.
So I'm still trying to see if I could find out what the hell that third.
It's all good. If you don't remember.
I went through the whole thing. Nothing stuck out. So obviously, it didn't make any sort of.
Keep going.
Yeah.
But after that one, then came the film about the dam in
No,
Brazil.
that was the next day because we left. So by the time Balkan Express was over, it was the. Wasn't it the break and we left? Wasn't it the next day before that we watched The Territory where the.
No, I thought it was Saturday morning. That's why I was jumping onto it.
Well,
next.
now I'll tell you, I'm so confused. Everything is just blended now. You can keep going then. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, yeah, there was a story about what area was that in Brazil? I can't remember, but anyhow, there's a big mining operation that's owned joint venture with some Brazilian
Bitter
companies,
River?
and Bitter River, that's it. It's joint venture between Brazil and English mining companies, and they had a big dam
You
fail
want me to read it?
with all the waste, and it flooded this whole area and destroyed a lot of lives. Yes, please take it away because you'll describe it better.
It actually doesn't have a lot to say in this book, but it just says through victim testimonials and first-hand accounts, Bitter River tracks the loss of life, land, and livelihood in the aftermath of the 2015 tragedy of the Mariana Dam rupture, the world's single largest mining-related environmental disaster. It does not say where it was or anything else.
Yeah, so I can't remember the region in Brazil, but it's this very, what's the word for it? It's a small community. You know, it wasn't a big city, but it did flood the river, and that's what affected many more people. Was that it wiped out this community, and then a lot of that, it's like mining waste of some kind that they hold up there. And I think the saddest part of that whole thing was it was through a negligence of the mining company. Like they had known there were these issues with the dam and they did not fix them. And they were warned repeatedly that this could happen and they let it happen. And then they did a shit job doing any kind of cleanup or accepting any responsibility for it.
Yeah, so there were like 3 dams in a row kind of thing, and the middle one is the one that shattered and busted everything else. It released millions of tons of toxic mud and caused destruction across 500 kilometers from the mountains of Minas Gerais to the Atlantic Ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That
Does
was...
it say how many lives were lost?
Oh, I'd probably have to go through a little bit, but if I remember, I think 11 died and 16 were missing or something. It was a small amount of people that actually, in this one,
Mm-hmm.
but there was another dam that burst at another time that killed like 250,000
Yeah.
people or something.
Yeah. But I think what was shocking about that one was it definitely showed the ways in which corporations and governments work together to essentially dissipate responsibility, and no real action is taken to resolve the issue.
They called it a tragedy. Did you already say that? When other people were saying it's a crime. It's not a tragedy. This was preventable.
Yeah, due to the negligence on behalf of the corporation.
Mm-hmm. And it was in Bento Rodriguez.
Okay. That's the town?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I remember there's some kind of lawsuit going on in England against one of the larger stakeholders in that operation, because it was an English company. And that has been one of the largest lawsuits against the company for an environmental disaster in terms of dollar figures being sought.
Yeah.
And I really hope to God that they win, because these kinds of stories seem to be more and more prevalent. And there seems to be more and more examples of corporate and government negligence around these kinds of issues. And the real losers are the people who are just trying to live simple lives.
Mm-hmm. Just living life. Like fishing from the river that used to be called Sweet River. Now they call it Bitter River because everything is dead. Everything is contaminated. So I'm going to apologize on our behalf for kind of butchering a lot of these things, really. But I'm happy we're able to share. And if you're so inclined, please go look these things up, because they're really important to know.
Watch the films if you want to learn more.
I live in my own bubble. I really do. I'm that kind of just person. And as much as I want to help the environment in my own way, I'm have been ignorant to a lot of these worldly disasters. So I 1,000% appreciate you guys taking me with you.
Yeah, and
to see these things. It was very depressing, though. I'm depressed.
Yeah, some of them. And then, so I think it was after that one that they had the intermission and we left.
Okay.
I had to go because I was actually second shooting a wedding that was happening in Canmore that I had known about long before we were going to Banff. And it was just kind of a cool excuse to go to Banff again, because I was already going to be in Canmore to shoot this wedding. So why not spend the weekend, have fun with friends, and watch some great films. So I went off to do that, which was a really cool experience. And it was also my first Sub-Zero wedding shoot. It was an outdoor shoot in Canmore during the snow. And holy gosh, I hope everybody is like not sick with pneumonia and healthy, because it was freezing cold during that time.
Not my kind of jam.
But lots of fun. Shout out to Calla Ramberg. Calla Ramberg Photography. She's an amazing wedding photographer here, and I've really enjoyed getting to work with her a couple of times this year on some of her shoots, and I'm always grateful when she calls and asks me to come out. So
yeah,
thank you, Calla. That was so much fun. And then when my time there was over, I came back.
Well, Jake took me back to the Airbnb because he said I was going to be no good if I did not have a nap.
Yeah, you were fading.
Oh my God. Thank you. Well, I felt bad because I was abandoning Brian. It was going to be me and Brian. I was interested in hanging out with Brian. And then I was like, I can't. I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you.
Yeah, we had worked a whole day, and then we went and watched films till late at night, and then we barely slept, and we went to watch more films, and I know you need sleep, so.
Yeah, he found a corner to nap in at some point there too.
Yeah,
so that's
he needed a nap too.
He's a grown ass man. He figured his his thing.
Yeah.
He had fun.
He's quite sociable as well. So if he wanted to go find people, he'd go find people and make friends. And
Yeah.
have a fun time.
So I had a nap.
Yeah.
I had a nap, and then I went for a little walk, and there's bunnies in Canmore.
Oh,
just
yeah,
like
right.
walking around. There was one, and it came up to say hi to me. And then, so I went to a local little pub, the Angry Bear Growlers or something, and just had a little snack and some fights and chit chat with the beer tender. And then I walked back, and then there were 3 bunnies. One was on the
They multiplied.
One was on the mat of one of the someone's place, and then there was a black one carrying a stick or something, and then that other one that was there still, and he came back and said hi, and it was super cute.
That's amazing.
And then at that time is when I started dinner. We had bag pasta for
Yep.
dinner.
I did it
Made a
again.
bag
Yep.
of pasta, brought it back to Banff, and
Found a conference room to chow down.
yeah. That was funny.
Great. But then we went to see one of our, well, I think it's my favorite film of the festival, The Fire of Love, which was a feature documentary, meaning it's like 90 minutes or something like that.
We went to the theater and saw that at the Lux Theater.
Yeah, that was playing at the Lux Theater in downtown Banff. And oh my God, do I love that
Want
film.
me to read it?
Yes, please. Read away.
So, Fire of Love, Katya and Maurice Kraft loved 2 things, each other and volcanoes. For 2 decades, the daring French volcanologists couple roamed the planet, chasing eruptions and documenting their discoveries. Ultimately, they lost their lives in a 1991 volcanic explosion, leaving a legacy that forever enriched our knowledge of the natural world. Fire of Love tells the story of primordial creation and destruction, following 2 bold explorers as they venture into the unknown, all for the sake of love. I love that. I love that they're these 2 people who have come together. So one was a geologist, one was a geochemist.
She was the chemist.
Yeah, so that's fucking awesome. And then they get together and they're like, we're not going to have kids. We're going to venture around and we're going to see these volcanoes that we love, do the things we love. And so it's a lot of love.
Yeah.
And then they died right next to each other.
Yeah, in a pyroclastic flow.
In Japan.
Yeah. But there was so much life that was lived before that. And like
so
Maurice, the husband and the geologist, he had such a comical approach to their work. Like in blowing up an inflatable boat and going out into a lake of, what was it, hydrochloric acid or sulfuric acid?
Something
One
that
of
was
those.
going to melt your boat.
Well, it didn't quite melt the rubber, at
It
least.
didn't.
But it did melt the steel because they were trying to take a little sample cup and drop it down in the lake and bring it back up, and it melted the the metal or the steel cabling that they were using to drop it. And he had that dream of wanting to ride a canoe down a lava flow. Like, the guy just had this absurd vision for life.
That never
and this-
did happen, though. Hey.
No, I don't think that would happen. But he
That
had
would've
this
been funny.
absurdly comical vision of life and love for volcanoes that was so personal in that sense. Like, it was a very playful love that he had with the volcanoes. And I think it brought a very playful love between the 2 of them. I love that interview where they talked about, a marriage between 2 volcanologists is very explosive.
Yes. They erupt often.
And she's just glaring down at him in the
But
background.
with a
and-
smile on her face.
Totally.
Like
playing along. Oh,
It
and
was
she had
so
her
beautiful.
quirky humor too.
She was so cute.
Yes. She was so just like, I don't know, she almost reminded me of my great grandmother in a way, who was very, sort of proper, but at the same time lively and adventurous, and had her own little quick-witted humor and interjections that could bring balance to any kind of a conversation. And yeah, and you could see too the ways, because I think so much of the footage of her came from stuff that Maurice shot, and
Yeah,
you could
I
tell
was-
that he was like there was so much that these were the things he loved about her, and that's why he captured those
She was
moments.
so curious. Well, they're both curious, but I liked looking. I like tiny things, so I liked watching her look at things with such curiosity and admiration, and being like, I feel like that's me
Yeah.
when I look at tiny things.
Yeah. Because they had that distinct difference. She had her still camera and was going around
Yeah.
taking photos of details and like picking up rocks and looking at the intricate little things that were coming out of the volcanoes. And Maurice was running around with his video camera, like, from one end of the volcano to 20 kilometers to the other side, and like looking for motion and
Yeah.
action and how does all of this fit together, the earth, the rock, the acids and the lavas and the types of
Yeah.
it, like how does this all work together?
It's such a great pairing.
Yeah, and she was so focused on what is this individual little thing and made of, and I
Yeah.
loved so much of their relationship and how it was inspiring to see how they wanted to do everything together.
Yeah. So, just a couple things. So, it was a collage film told through their footage, their photographs, their writings.
And interviews on TV shows and
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were prominent at that time, in the scientific world.
they did a lot to bring awareness to what they were doing and studying as well. Like they're very outspoken. They would go do research project, then come back and go on the talk circuit and share what they learned.
Well, isn't it, if it weren't for their, sorry if it's for all if it weren't for them, there wouldn't have been that escape.
Oh yeah, in Chile, I think, or somewhere down in South America.
They brought awareness of,
Because they had studied Mount St. Helens and why, like how that eruption happened. And then they were able to identify another mountain in South America that was a big danger. And they were able to get everyone evacuated because they noticed some warning signs from that mountain.
yeah, they put together an evacuation plan that wasn't taken seriously. And then there was an eruption that killed a bunch of people. And then they died. And it was until after they died, I think, where another eruption happened somewhere else, where then people, I think that's how it
I don't
went.
remember the timeline of it. I just remember they were instrumental in helping develop evacuation plans, and that there was an explosion or an eruption that they... Oh, you found it?
The Crafts footage of a pyroclastic flow in 1986 was used in an educational video to help governments understand their dangers. And a week after the couple's death, its lessons were put into practice when Mount Pinatubo erupted in the Philippines.
Right.
Do you remember what a pyroclastic flow is, or the difference between they had put volcanoes in two different categories, the red ones and the gray ones.
Yeah. The red ones were like what's like Hawaii, where it's sort of a constant eruption and there's this steady flow of red hot lava. It doesn't really blow up or do anything in terms of big action. It's, there can be little moments of that, but for the most part, they just kind of spew the lava out. And as long as you're aware of how it's flowing, because it flows kind of like water. So for the most part, again, nothing is absolute, but for the most part, as long as you're aware of where that's going, you'll be okay and you can stay out of the way, and it won't really be much danger. And then the gray ones were explosive, where they, like Mount St. Helens, for those who know that eruption in Washington State. It's, the mountain will look normal, and then one day just kablooey. And if I'm going to go from memory on pyroclastic flows, from what I remember, they're mostly just hot gas and rock and ash.
Do you want me to?
And they just, you can, if you have something, please.
If you're done.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm doing the study over here because I feel very
Good quality control on our
I
words.
don't have the knowledge. I don't have the memory. It's terrible. And I feel bad for all my ums. And so a red volcano cannot produce a pyroclastic flow. A gray volcano is far more destructive and dangerous. The magma is usually very viscous and gaseous. Pressure builds and builds in the magma chamber until the volcano cannot hold it anymore, and then it just explodes.
Yeah.
And that's what it says. And I guess this is how people identify things now, too. So a red volcano freely spews out lava or molten rock, which flows out at a very slow pace. So a volcano in Hawaii, they say. The lava is destructive in its own way by destroying roads, buildings, and land, but can easily be outpaced.
Mm-hmm.
And then we already know about the gray volcano.
Yeah. So they were instrumental in helping discover, I guess, the unique characteristics of those volcanoes. And then they tragically passed away in a pyroclastic flow in Japan. But I love that they died together doing the things that they loved the most. You know, like from the moment they met, they like never left each other. And were constantly
that's
together.
What it said.
And just out there in the volcanoes, exploring, being with one another. And, you know, I think there were several times throughout the movie that they had even mentioned, yes, it's dangerous, but if I die,
yeah,
like, this is how I want to go.
Well, I think Maurice said this is going to kill me. This is going to kill me.
Yeah.
So he just predicted it.
Yeah. And they both professed that desire to just go together.
Mm-hmm. And
they were so connected.
Let's also mention that they weren't the only ones killed in this. There were 41 other people plus them.
Yeah.
I'm trying to actually find out how far it reached. When you watch the footage, like, it's fast.
Oh, yeah.
There's no way to avoid it. But they were so far, what we would perceive as far, you'd think, oh, I'm okay. No, fucking run, drive, like in a whole new town. Like I don't know, just keep driving for as long as possible.
Well, I remember when they talked about the Mount St. Helens one, their best predictions thought the pyroclastic flows would go about 7 kilometers from the mountain. And they had an observatory station that was 10 kilometers away. And they thought, oh, that'll be safe. And then when it erupted, the man who was manning that station only had enough time to scream out on the radio, Vancouver, Vancouver, this is it. And then it hit him and he was killed.
Yeah.
So that was 3 kilometers beyond what they predicted. And he was already taken out.
Yeah. So
which is crazy.
Volcanic rock and ash.
Yeah. And it's mostly the heat, I guess, in the rock that will kill it. Well, I don't know what the gas is made of in there too either. But yeah, I think it's mostly the heat. They're really hot. They'll just vaporize you, I guess. Wow,
anyways, it's a national, right?
Yeah.
Well, because I think all they said was it was obvious they were right next to each other, but there was like a watch and something else.
The camera?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they found their bones still too. I don't think your
I
bones
feel like
go
I'd be
away.
okay with going out that way.
Right?
As soon, like, if it's super quick.
Yeah, it would probably be quick.
And if they had a chance to, they would have been holding on to each other. They would have been, like, that's really sweet.
Absolutely.
So, it was National Geographic. Please just go watch it.
I think it should be on Disney Plus on the 11th. November 11th.
It's 97 minutes, but it's worth every minute. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful, the love story, but the
footage they shot too.
And so cool. Like, it's retro, it's vintage, but it's got just life.
And that, like, French flair.
Yeah.
And I loved the music and the soundtrack too.
Yeah.
It added this, I don't know, just that sort of French flair.
So shout out to that. That was a that was a what time did we watch that?
In the evening, it was like 9:30 or something.
It was late. That one was late. So again, we got home late. But we made a new friend that night.
Yeah, that's where we met Rodrigo.
Rodrigo!
Shout out to Rodrigo. We were picking our seats, and I was leaving a gap in the seats because there was this man sitting behind in the aisle directly behind us, and I was like, well, I don't want to block this guy's view because earlier that day there was someone sitting in front of me and I couldn't read the subtitles on the films because their big head was in my way. And he laughed, but we kept striking up conversation. And then when it got over and Brian was talking with him and we just all started chatting, and we had such a great conversation and exchanged contact information as we were leaving the theaters, and we all went home. And then, the next day we went to watch more movies.
It was a long weekend of movies.
And we did not see Rodrigo in the morning, but we did see our next favorite film, The Territory.
Hold on, there were a few that morning as well.
Okay, I'm just trying to jump to the good parts.
Oh, okay. Do you don't want to
things that
talk
remember.
about the Mount Bagby?
I thought that was after.
No, The Territory was the last one because it was the longest one.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about Bagby then. I did enjoy that one. I forgot it was part of that.
I know it's hard to follow when there's so
Sorry, we saw
many.
a lot of films. Yes, but Bagby, that was a really powerful one, especially because it was a very local film. It was set in Revelstoke and Banff areas, which is British Columbia and Alberta for those outside of Canada or who don't know their Canadian geography. And Chantel is looking up the description to read you the official.
Beyond Bagby is what it's called. So, standing tall over the Revelstoke Valley, Mount Bagby has inspired and created contemporary culture for an entire community. But its name and story only represent colonial history, with no reference to the indigenous heritage of this land. Is it the outdoor community's responsibility to help change this? Yes.
It's everybody's responsibility.
Everybody's
But especially
responsibility.
those, I guess, who are with them, or especially those who enjoy the mountains and the outdoors. We can be great advocates of that change.
Yeah, because why does this white guy who came in and killed a bunch of people get to be named on a mountain? And what about all the other... you know what I didn't learn? Or maybe I missed it. Was what the actual name... like the indigenous name of the mountain is.
Yeah, I don't remember what Bagby in particular was, but I remember there was in Banff the one that was Sleeping Buffalo, because it looks like a big sleeping buffalo.
And it's actually called the Tunnel.
Was that Tunnel Mountain?
Tunnel Mountain, yeah.
Okay.
I remember because I remember Nahani saying it looks exactly like a buffalo. Why would they call it a tunnel? I don't get it.
And then there's Sacred Guardian.
Well,
Welcome.
no.
Sorry, we shouldn't talk about those ones because I can't remember the names. But,
yeah.
I think what struck me about that, or what I took away from that the most, I found this interesting how the Western colonial culture that came in wanted to name things after people. But the indigenous naming traditions have been naming those places after what the land looks like or contains. You know, I remember they were talking about a caribou crossing. Or sorry, no, I think that came up in a different film, but it brought that to my forefront, you know, and even Sleeping Buffalo. Like, we name this because look at it. Or this is what happens here. Yeah. This is why you go here.
This has nothing to do with you.
It's not about some person who the fuck knows who that person is. Like, so why the fuck would that matter? Name the land after the land, which felt so much more, I don't know, logical on one level, and just honest and respectful of the land itself, you know, instead of trying to put your humanity onto the land. Why don't you become part of the land and respect that? And it like, even from a navigation standpoint, it made sense to me if I was going to look for a mountain called Sleeping Buffalo.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You
there
can
it is.
find your way around.
And it's kind of funny too, right? You go, oh yeah, like that makes me laugh a little, makes me smile inside, and say that's really hilarious how the land looks like something completely different, and how unique that probably is. It's easier to find that than it is what's a Begbie.
Exactly.
The fuck.
Stop trying to claim things that aren't yours, that isn't anybody's.
Well, it seems very vain when I think about it too.
Yeah.
Let's name it after people. Like that person's gonna die and no one's gonna know who they are.
Exactly.
Why would you do that?
Is that the kind of history that we want to recognize?
Well, yeah, and then there's that layer. Yeah.
Yeah, that one was good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And there was a good bunch of them. I forget her name, but the glass artist who was featured in that was actually sitting right next to us. So it was really fun when they showed that and they brought the crew up to the front. And
I wish I had the names on here too.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember she gets up and walks up there and you're like, oh my God, I was sitting right next to somebody whose whose
She
work
was
is
so
here.
proud of that too. That whole thing because she was cheering up at the end. I was like,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
that was beautiful. And then the whole thing shifted gears because we moved into a big documentary, which surprised me for this showing. But we got to see another National Geographic production, The
86
Territory.
minutes. Yeah. Sorry, The Territory. Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll read the description of that.
So The Territory provides an immersive, on-the-ground look at the tireless fight of an indigenous community against the encroaching deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon. With awe-inspiring cinematography, the film takes audiences deep into the Euroe territory and provides unprecedented access to the farmers and settlers illegally burning and clearing the protected indigenous land. Partially shot by the Euroe people, the film relies on verite footage captured over 3 years as the community risks their lives to set up their own news media team in the hopes of exposing the truth. On that note, it's the Brazilian Amazon.
Yes.
It is what they refer to as the lungs of the earth. So people are trying to claim the rainforest as their own land. So they're removing it. What they're not understanding is that there will be no land if they continue to do that.
Well, there will be no forest to convert the carbon dioxide back into oxygen.
Yeah. So there'll be no land. There'll be no people. It's a worldwide devastation.
Yeah.
For someone who just wants to be a landowner.
Well, and they want their land, well, they want to cut down the forest to create ranches for cattle because there's big money in meat between Brazil and Argentina.
So let's find other ways.
And
Anyway.
again, cows produce methane and other greenhouse gases.
So we don't need any more of them.
Yeah. As we say, I don't know. The debate is seemingly without a good solution. But the main point of this documentary is that there was an agreement. There's been a treaty and that land has been set aside for these people and these people alone. And it was agreed that the Brazilian government and Brazilian citizens would not encroach upon that or disturb that land or otherwise inhabit it. And they're blatantly breaking those rules under the protection of Bolsonaro, who was the previous Brazilian president. He was a very Trump-like character within Brazilian politics, and he emboldened a lot of these people to break those rules and, promising that the government will be behind them and support them and that they have this right to do that. As I talk about it right now, actually, it reminds me of the Manifest Destiny in the United States, which was this belief that a lot of colonizers had that the whole continent is theirs and they had the right to go from Virginia to California and claim all of that land as theirs because it is their manifest destiny. And it's kind of gross to see it repeated in your own lifetime in a different culture. And I guess when you see it from that, objective point of view, you say, oh, yeah, fuck, that's really disgusting. Because there are already people here. They have a culture. They have a land. They have a way of life. And I loved how when they, finally, they try to be honest. They try to go through the government channels because there was a relation, like a branch of the government that had relationship with them and would communicate and offer them services and send medicines. And, there was a good relationship there until Bolsonaro came in and he basically eradicated that. And it only existed on paper and there was no actual support anymore.
Yeah.
And so they're caught in that hard place of being extremely outnumbered because there's 250 something of them.
No,
then COVID hits.
The beginning of
and there's 180 something.
The beginning of the documentary, it's the tribe is presented as just 200 people.
Yeah.
200.
Yeah.
That's nothing. That is sad.
Yeah. Against, Brazil.
And what did Bolsonaro say when he was, ranting? He's like, everybody will have a gun and there will be no indigenous land.
Yeah. Then we're going to take it all.
Yeah. What? And to watch the fucking people be like, yes, we want that. What is wrong with you? Why do you need more? Why do you even need guns? Also.
And going in and slashing and burning hundreds of acres of land.
Killing animals.
Mm-hmm.
A shit ton of animals. Too. And just vegetation and
Yeah.
This one really, really, really got to me.
Yeah. It's worth noting that Bolsonaro did lose the latest election to a previous president. Was it Luna da Silva? Sorry, I don't remember his first name, but da Silva. So he is out of power, or will be, but not without some spectacular politics that, I don't know, it really shakes a lot of my faith in these institutions that we have when you see people feeling so emboldened and at a point where they have so dehumanized another group of people that they feel they have a right to go in and act as these people do.
Mm-hmm. This is saying the film interweaves verite footage. What's that? Do you know
Cinema
that?
verite. Yeah, it's like self-shot.
Okay.
Guerrilla style.
Yeah. So it of settlers who have genuine faith in their entitlement of the Amazonian land. I'm reading this off of the internet, by the way, just to help guide us through this, but which I thought was also interesting because if I were, so those were self-shot.
Mm-hmm.
Or did the,
it means a lot of it's self-shot.
okay, so but how did they? So who took the videos of them?
It said
then?
mostly. Did it say the word mostly there?
It just says the film interweaves.
Yeah, interweaves.
So was it those guys, the settlers themselves, who provide? What if it were the people who are documenting it? Like if that were me watching those guys destroy, I'd be fucking stopping them. Like I'd have a really hard time to watch them do that, but I get that they have to. What are you looking at me like that for?
I admire that, but also if you're standing there and this man has a machete,
Oh,
and
for
you're out
sure,
in the middle
for
of the
sure, I
woods
would want to.
by yourself.
I said I would
under
want
the
to. I'd have a
skies
really
of-
hard time to
Yeah.
be documenting it without wanting to do something. Of course, like I'm not gonna get my. This is the way that the reason for the documentary is to bring the awareness to stop that. It just would be really fucking hard to be in there. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, it's often the hardest part of filmmaking in general is you have to sort of stand by as an observer and let things happen, and trust that it's the power of getting that message out that will bring back the justice and and the support to stop whatever you think is happen or whatever is happening that you don't want to happen. But yeah, I admit that is, when I watched that from a filmmaker perspective, that was a very difficult part of it. Just thinking, man, yeah, how can you keep your cool and keep up, I guess, the facade, because you kind of have to go along with them. It's like being a bit of a spy in a way, right? Like,
Yeah.
you sort of got to go in there and pretend you're on their side and with their cause, but then you hand the footage off to someone else and it doesn't make them look good anymore.
I'm gonna butcher his name, but Batate.
I don't remember the pronunciation either.
Batate. He is one of the. He's 18 at the beginning of this. He's one of the youth in the tribe, and so it centers around him and also Nadina, who's an environmental and human rights activist, and trying to protect them. Batate is. He's selected as the leader at 18 to help protect and change the future for them. And there's also a man named Ari.
He was like a scout for them.
Yeah,
he would often go out
here,
and find
it also
where
mentions he was a tribal leader as well, but the patrol, as you say, yeah.
Well, he was in charge of their patrols.
Yeah. And their patrols was to find these invaders, as they called them, and try to stop them, I guess. And he was murdered for it.
Yeah, they found him dead, beaten to death on the side of the road.
Is this too much? Are we giving away too much?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
It's a big part. There's nothing to really give away. The struggle is still ongoing. And I think that's why it's important to talk about it. And I think what I admire the most, at least from what we see in the film, was that they didn't stoop so low to that level. Like, they were not murdering in return.
No, they just were they were arresting people.
Yeah.
So later on, as it progresses, so Ari has they never found his killer, and Batate, I wish I could say your name properly, takes up, for when he becomes the leader, plus takes up the patrol, and at this time he's bringing in all this equipment like drones and
cameras and GPS.
Yeah, which is really cool to see that stuff being used in a good way. Because he's got like one of his monitor things says, "You're being arrested because you are in our territory. This is in our territory." They're burning down shelters and stuff that they find that are encroaching. They're not supposed to be there. Reason they're there is because people are like, okay, this is our base. We're going to cut down some shit and make it our land. And
well, the government told all of these people who wanted to settle the land, all you have to do is go out and survey it, claim it, organize yourselves into some kind of a community association, and then we will legally bless you with this land.
Yeah. Well, okay, so actually there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of different people we are seeing. So we have the tribe. I'll just, so I stop butchering names. And then the Sergio who started what he called the association, where he's working with the government and they tell him that he can do that. And then there's the other invaders who are solo people going out being like, fuck the association, fuck the government, fuck the tribe. I'm doing this all for me in my personal.
Because they feel they have no place in the Brazilian society.
Yeah.
And so they feel that, again, that is their right then. Because I'm forced out of my society, I have the right to invade your space and create my own.
And they also recite something from the Bible.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? They put a lot on their faith in God and saying that God said, I have the right to be here. I
Yeah.
don't like that.
Which is something a lot of, I don't know, religion often gets used as a cover for a lot of evil shit. And not to down, I don't mean that as an insult to religion. I know that religions are good, but it's sad that the way that people will use that as a cover and a front to do some really evil shit.
Yeah. And then, like you said, COVID comes in and it takes 5% of the tribe out.
Yeah, so they're down to less than 200 members.
Yeah. But the end of it, did you want to add anything in between there? It's a long, amazing, sad story, and but it really made me want to do whatever I can on where I am to aid in that, even if it's just sharing it on this podcast and hoping that other people hear it, see it, and in turn take action. But the end is inspiring, because then you see Batate and his patrol, and they're catching so many people, but they're still not able to do enough.
Yeah, well, they're such small numbers, right?
Yeah,
it's less than
versus
100.
the
It's less
world,
than 200 people against like all of Brazil, or at least a big portion of it who voted for the Bolsonaro character, previous president. But I think too, it was shocking to see a reflection of a lot of the grossness that's happening within North American politics too. You know, and feeling like there's certain people who are now feeling emboldened and that things are their right. And yeah, it just makes me really wary of anyone who talks like that.
I have to say, this came out, it was premiered in January of this year. And I just saw it. And that also takes me back to being this little bubble that I need to poke holes through.
But it's also been on like this festival circuit.
Yeah.
Right? It hasn't been out in
maybe
theaters.
This documentary, but just awareness. I mean, we all knew that the rainforests were in trouble in the first place, but why did it take this documentary to get me to be thinking a bit more seriously?
Be grateful that it happened.
Yeah, so I chose that day as my People's Choice Awards.
100%. It's a fantastic one. It will also be on Disney Plus November 11th, I saw. So, highly recommend that people check it out.
Yeah.
We'll try to post some links on something, maybe some way you can get involved with that.
At least maybe some trailer links or something.
Yeah. And then from there, it took a while to decompress from that because that was such a powerful story. But we wandered over to the marketplace. And I remember the first thing, we walked into the one room and I was immediately drawn towards the table of gemstones that you were already looking at.
Straight to it.
Yeah.
I like rocks.
Yeah. Well, what drew your attention to them?
I like rocks. I just like rocks. I don't really know what else to say. I like colors. I like that they're shiny and polished, and there's flat ones and there's big ones and small ones and shiny ones. Did I say that already? And crystals, and yeah. That's it. That's really it. And then she had jewelry, and I don't wear a lot of jewelry. I like rings and my piercings, but necklaces and bracelets not a big thing. But I've been really into looking for rings, more rings, and so I was just looking at everything and touching everything. I'm sorry, I was touching everything, trying to find what just I wanted to take something home, but I needed something to ask me to take it home.
Yeah.
But instead, you ended up finding something out of there.
Did. Well, you found a couple things.
Yeah, not for me, though.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I was drawn towards an area of the table that had some necklaces. And then there was these ones that had lava rock beads on them. And that's what caught my eye first. And then I noticed there was these big hunks of stone on them that had some cool patterns to them. And I later find out they're agate, which is a type of rock from, or originally discovered in Sicily. It's quite common around the world, similar to a quartz. But it had this cool, what is it? It's sort of white and earth and black and...
Kind of looks like if you cut into a cake. It's
Yeah.
got layers.
Like a... I can't remember the cake right now. Tuxedo cake? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Anyhow. It was cool, and I felt drawn to that. And then I'm looking around, and there was two pieces in particular that I was drawn to. One had this very sort of chevron-y pattern, you know, like 90-degree angles at a point going down. It's kind of this big square hunk of rock cut into like a, I don't know, what are these, like half a centimeter or something? Or no, sorry, half an inch thickness. And then there was another one that had sort of a bit of a J shape to it. And I remember I was looking between the two of them, and I asked you to come over and give your opinion. And we ended up settling on the J-shaped one. But
We were both leaning towards that one.
Yeah.
Before you told me.
and what was cool, I had asked the woman there, what was her name? Simsha? Simsha. I think Simsha. She owns Geogems, makes these. And she gave me a book that she had that talked about the rocks. And this agate in particular, well, in the book it was talking about it's usually with your throat chakra, which is associated with clarity and clear communication. And it also brings just like healing, or like healing from headaches, helps protect you from negative energies. And I found that really fascinating how I was drawn immediately to that, especially since in North Carolina I had this meditation with this extremely clear vision of my third eye. You know, like when you close your eyes and you can see this
Are you
image
going
of
to
an
take
eye.
a minute to tell us exactly how that went? Because it's fucking weird. Like, the way I picture it is so crazy cool. And it's wow that you actually saw that. And I was napping, I think, when you were doing that. Or cleaning, I don't remember.
Yeah. I don't remember if I wrote about it on here. I don't have it handy, sorry. But usually when I've meditated and I've seen a third eye, it's just this static image, and it maybe kind of floats around a little in space in this sort of blue-green fuzzy energy. But this time that came through, and then it blinked. And that caught me off guard. So I was like, whoa! Like I've never interacted with it or felt it moving in any way. And then I looked around a little, like it kind of looked left and it looked right. And I remember feeling like it was seeing inside of me, you know, like in my soul, in spirit. And sights of your third eye within meditation are also, you know, your third eye is very closely associated with clarity. And so I found that really like a cool synchronicity of the universe, how I'd had this meditation and then I walk into this room full of gems, and what am I drawn to? And I felt like this has become a period in my life as well where I am becoming more clear in my communication, my perceptions of the world. Things are beginning to make a lot more sense, and I'm feeling a lot more myself, like who I truly am. Mm-hmm. Not this, I don't know, I guess kind of varied experimental version of myself that I was through most of my 20s. As you should be, right? Like try out different personalities and things. And, you know, I think that's a huge part of how you find yourself. But
That's so cool.
and then also the lava rock, it's earth, it's grounding. And, you know, if you're into astrology and signs, I'm a water sign. And so to me, earth it's what helps give me my shape. It keeps me together, keeps me whole, right? Because, you know, a lake is only a lake because of the land that surrounds it. You know, a river can only flow where it is because of the way the land, is. Like, it's a very cool relationship, and I have very, very much felt without guidance and purpose and boundary. So it felt very appropriate that that's what I was drawn to in the moment. And I had a wonderful conversation with the woman there. I don't remember much of it, but I just remember it was really great. And she invited us back out to the Canmore Folk Festival in August.
Yeah.
So we'll have to try and make our way back out there in August.
Yeah.
And then we popped over to the other table where this woman was selling books. And her name...
She did a really good job at selling that book.
Her name is Diane. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, Diane. I cannot pronounce your last name. Jeanne Haché. I'm so sorry if that's completely wrong. But
it's been a difficult day for
there was
pronunciation.
A lot, yeah. And yeah, she wrote about her experience in kayaking around the Arctic, like through the, what's it called? Northwest Passage in Arctic of Canada. And she did a couple trips before that prepared her for that. And so she wrote this book called Nothing is Impossible because she was, oh my gosh, what was it, 55 when she did her first kayak trip down the Mackenzie River. And then, what was it, maybe 58 or something? I think about 58 when she did the Northwest Passage or started it. Because it took her a couple of summers to complete it.
6 summers.
Yeah.
Because she'd kayak, and then she'd stop and go back to work for a bit, and then go back to kayaking.
Yeah, because there is such a short passage of time where, it's not frozen or the weather isn't windy and stormy and it's possible to kayak. So anyways, I had such a great time talking with her, and I had spent $20 at the gemstone booth and had $30 left over because I got a $50 tip from the wedding shoot. Mm-hmm. So I asked her, how much is the book? She says $30. And I go, my God, I just happened upon $30. Here you go. I would love to read this story.
Cash done. Yep. Spent in 5 minutes.
Gone. But totally worth it. I love supporting them. As a bit of a writer myself, working on my own book, it feels really good to, see what could be your future self, hawking your own story at a little folding table at a festival in the mountains. And It made me just feel like I need to give. And I loved her spirit and the fact that she, went for these things at a time in life when most of us, think, oh, you should be thinking of retiring and like giving up.
And then going to Mexico for a fly and lie. My mom
and
likes
she goes the opposite.
She's like, no, adventure.
She says, heck with that. There's shit I want to do, and I'm going to go do it.
I like that.
And I really loved it. So and I asked her to sign it. She wrote in there, Jake, impossible is just an opinion.
I like that a lot, too.
And signed it. And it makes me really happy. And I've been enjoying reading it. I think I'm almost halfway through it already. I've only had it for a few days.
You like that kind of stuff, so I'm really glad that you got it.
Yeah.
And it feels right. It feels right.
It's wonderful to meet her. And then we had also met, was it Caroline Cote, who is an athlete and filmmaker, represented, or in a, what do you call it?
Oh, you met her.
She's got a relationship with Helly Hansen.
You met her outside.
She's like a sponsored athlete or something. But she was at the Helly Hansen booth, which was out front of the market. And they were having a little contest where you can throw these fake dynamites into a hole, like cornhole. But you had these little fake dynamites you had to throw into it. And she's preparing for a trek across Antarctica. Like walking across it, hauling a sled. Oh, yeah, right, because they had that contest where you have to guess how heavy
her... Her contest was the sled.
Yeah, you have to guess how heavy the sled is with all her supplies for this journey across Antarctica.
I'll interject and just say that I went went inside for warmth while Jake and Brian were outside doing this. I needed sanctuary, so I didn't meet her.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm enamored by people who do big, bold things, and I really love when I have the opportunity to meet them in person because it really humanizes them and makes that whole effort seem accessible. Like I go, wow, yeah, look at you, here you are, another human just like me, and if I just put forth the effort, learned what I need to learn about this trip, did the training, I could do it too.
I'd probably die. I would die. I'm not a winter girl.
Yeah. But I mean, pick your discipline, whatever it
Yeah.
is. And
I'll try something else.
but it's just it gives me a kind of motivation that I don't get by just watching something. When you have that chance to see somebody and you go, you're about to do what? It's really cool. Like, I'm standing here, and then 1 week from now, you're going to be like down in Antarctica beginning this walk across that continent. Whoa. That's wild. It's super cool.
Yeah.
It makes me feel really alive. Yeah. And then what did we do? We hopped into the Indigenous panel.
Yeah, we walked around a little bit more, and then we wanted to listen to the Indigenous panel. Yeah, where there were 4 different Indigenous folk from different backgrounds, different areas as well of the world, and maybe not like the whole world, but
Most of North America.
Yeah, who talked a lot about what we could do and try to give us an understanding about Indigenous, period.
Well, it was a bit about reconciliation, a bit about
yes.
respect in nature, and I think it was about what does that look like in action, especially pertaining to the outdoor community.
Yeah, and what we can do. You use the word recreate a lot.
Yeah, and reconciliation and recreation.
Yeah.
That might have actually been the title of the panel.
Huh.
But I loved what I took away from that was this understanding that the world is a living place, right? All the spaces that we inhabit, the trees around us, the animals, the grass, the homes we live in, the air that we breathe, all of it is alive and energized, and we have to honor and respect that.
And we have to talk to it, and we have to... I'm so sorry. I'm losing steam. It's been a long conversation. It made me feel better about also because I'm Métis. I don't have my status, but I always had thought if I get my status, I'd be taking away from everybody else that really needs it. And I don't know why, but like there, it kind of made me feel more like, no, I'd be recognizing who I am fully. Like if I can't recognize that part of myself, and embrace it fully, then I wouldn't be able to know myself completely. And then you said something about, you'd be adding to the number and you'd be helping actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, giving back to the land. And also, words are hard.
I don't know where you're going towards.
Honoring sacred places and knowing where you can step and where you can't.
Yeah. That really came across in Sky's conversation, she's Hawaiian. And, I'm forgetting the word she's using, but, a big thing that they do is they place their ancestors in very specific locations once they pass, right? Like your remains are put in a very specific place and you go there so that you can commune and connect with them. And, she's a climber by trade. And so there are some areas where there might be great climbing, but it's also a very important ancestral site in terms of where you put the remains of your ancestors. And so it is disrespectful to, climb on top of them.
Walk on them.
Yeah, right. Just the same as if you go to a graveyard and it's a sign of disrespect to walk on top of the graves, right? Mm-hmm. Same thing. It's
and
the
making
same concept
sure not
there.
to put them in areas where there could be landslides. And so really getting to know the land to avoid any destruction or issues of where these remains would come back up.
Yeah, but I loved that it was about encouraging a connection with the land. Like you can also use it to your assistance, right? Like if you come in and you recognize the land and the space and listen to it, it will guide you. It will help get you where you need. It will warn you of dangers that are ahead.
Yeah.
And it's silly, I guess, to like, I guess, go forward against that, because it's just going to make your life so much more difficult. If you just slow down and learn to communicate with the land, if you learn to read its warning signs and learn to communicate with it so that you can find those easy routes, so that you can use the power of the land or the water or the snow or the elements, like use those powers in your advantage to make your journey easier, which to me always sounds very counter to the Western narrative that
take.
well, take, but also you have to like work hard, like fight through something. It's a burden. It's difficult. You have to be tough and you have to break shit. And I don't know, especially me being such, like I'm a sensitive empath kind of person. And so that has never really rung true to me. Yet at the same time, when I embrace those qualities of myself, then I acquire the things that I need with relative ease, and I don't have to work that hard, and I'm not as tired. I'm not as diseased. That was something that I think I noticed on that, the Territory movie. Just a quick observation, like looking at the physical differences between the indigenous group and those settler people, they looked diseased. Like when you looked at them, they were run down, ragged, boils on their skins, and all, like they did not look healthy. Mm-hmm. Compared to the indigenous group, where they all look very healthy.
Yeah.
They didn't have maybe their shirt was ragged or something, but you look at the like their skin, their hair, their health, their general demeanor, and the way they carry themselves.
Maturity.
Yeah, very healthy. The other people look very diseased and sick. It was sorry, I had to throw that in there because it really struck me in the moment on that film. But yeah, I loved taking that away from that panel. And I think it also helped it changed a lot of my perceptions of the natural world around us. And made me want to be, find ways to connect more with.
Well, on that note, but I'll say one thing. I took a lot of that out of there too. So I'm just going to roll with what you said. But also, what I also liked was that they provided some insight on how we can be allies. And Sky said something about how, yes, be an ally, but remember that your voice is behind us. You're backup. You're like a backup singer. You're not the lead. So shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And just offer the support. Don't be the face. You aren't the face. No, you're the help.
Yeah.
And not to say that in a bad way. You're the support. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But on the note of, environment and what we can do to connect with that, we are about to start like our I'm going to call it close to zero waste plan for our home and our lives. I bring that up because now it's real.
Yeah.
And we're going to do we're going to record how we're making changes, but we have a lot to prepare for, and it's going to take a really long time, but it's something I'm really excited about.
Wow.
And I feel like that's just one small way that we can make an impact as well. And that's, yeah.
Yeah. What reminds me of a big part of mountain culture is, pack it in, pack it out. Right?
Pack it in, pack it out.
Like, you go in, you respect the land, you enjoy your time there, but you don't leave waste, and you bring only what you need.
Yeah.
And especially with a lot of your gear, it's like you use it as long as possible. You don't just throw things away. You adapt, you create solutions, and you use the power of the world around you for that.
I've always really hated going camping and ending up somewhere where there's so much garbage and people don't have the decency to just pick up after themselves. So it would be, I'm just a organizer, cleaner, kind of obsessive person in that way anyways. So I would pick it up and take it out. So if you ever are around that kind of environment, you have that chance, always pick up after other people as well. Just do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then what was it? We met up with Rodrigo.
Rodrigo
He
was
at the
right
panel.
behind us again.
Yeah, right.
He was right behind us.
Yeah. And that was great. And we had just struck up another awesome conversation that kept slowly moving towards the doors. And then we were all starving because it was coming up on dinner time. And we had promised ourselves that we would have one dinner out. Most of the time we were making our own food, and we had 8 cold pasta for lunch that day.
I hated that so much.
and so we wanted to go have a nice meal, and I felt compelled to invite Rodrigo because we had such great conversations with him. He popped up twice here.
Well, you guys,
and he had an awesome restaurant recommendation, so we thought, hey, come on, join us.
For sure. He was alone, and this conversation wasn't ending anytime soon, and so it just seemed like the right thing to do.
100%. And I'm so glad we did, because it was so wonderful to get to know him and his story, and I'm hoping that we could have him on this podcast sometime
so we won't
he can tell his story, and I don't have to tell it for him.
Exactly. Just repeating what you're saying. But where did we go? Because I fucking loved that. Oh, my God. It was like the box.
Shit. I don't remember the name of it.
It was some box restaurant, a tiny hole in the wall, but it was like fusion.
It was sort
food.
of a tapas style restaurant, but it was very like Asian and
fusion inspired.
Asian, Indian, or like I guess Asian and Southeast Asian.
It was so good.
Yeah. There were so many.
It was so good. I'm yelling.
Yeah.
Like it was so good. It had the karage, the gyozas. What else did we have?
Pork
We had
and kimchi gyoza.
Pan-fried
wild.
shrimp. Oh my God, those
with that
yam
spicy
fries.
Peanut sauce. Oh yeah, and they're like yam fries with bento
I
bento
want
flake on
it
it.
again.
No,
I want
I
it
can't remember the
now.
fish. My
I'm
brain's
hungry.
not working either.
I want those. So
and
good.
the edamame.
Yeah,
and,
so we just shared a bunch of. We just did the tapas thing.
Yeah, and it was all so great. Greatly enjoyed that.
It was so good. I'm telling you.
And then that night we went back for the awards and films.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the festival, they have a big award ceremony. A lot of the filmmakers weren't there in person this time, which was a little disappointing, but some were, and that was really fun and cool. And many of them, I think all of them had recorded cool video.
Yeah.
Acceptance speeches as well. So it was really cool to see and hear from the filmmakers.
And I think there were only 3 out of, I don't know how many that we had actually seen.
Yeah. So we got to see a lot of new films. And I don't know, I feel like I'm done talking about all the films.
So I'll just say...
If you're feeling tired, you're feeling exactly how we felt at the end of this.
Yeah, it's hard to... Words are hard. But I will say, when the People's Choice Award came up, I was disappointed because it wasn't the territory. It wasn't the territory, and I was really upset. I was upset. Like, that's all I can say. 'Cause I'm just like, how the fuck? And I didn't realize that there was one last award. The number one. And they won. And I literally... The grand prize, $5,000. I shot my arms up, and I was just like, woo! I was so excited. And then I cried a little bit.
Yeah. It was awesome. I'm glad they won that, and I hope that money goes to, bring peace and help the Indigenous community with their battle.
Yeah, exactly. And then we drove home.
Yeah. Well, we gave Rodrigo a ride home to his hostel because it was late. Oh, we had convinced him to join. That was it. He didn't have tickets.
But we were all sitting. Well, Jake and I got to sit together because Brian gave up his seat. But Brian and Rodrigo were off in a whole other places.
Yeah.
Oh, we were all kind of separated. But
and then we got home at like 2 a.m. after driving through.
It was late.
A minus 20 degree blizzard.
We had talked about leaving early, and we didn't.
Oh, sorry, not a blizzard, but it was a lot of snowfall, and it was minus 20, and there was winds whipping, and
I slept.
late.
I slept the whole way.
And I was just hoping that we would get home without any breakdowns, because that would be the worst time to have a breakdown.
We made it.
And we made it. And we're here back in Calgary, and it's still minus 20 something and freezing.
It's miserable. I'm miserable. I haven't had to drive in the snow in like 10 years.
Yeah, and it was quite a crash course.
I mean, I have driven a few times in Vancouver, but like not.
Yeah, it's not like this. That's for sure.
No, it's so cold. Anyways, I can't. Sorry. I hope this worked out, because I feel like I was failing here.
No, it was good. That was a fun time. Anyhow, if
It
you
was
have
a
never
great
been to the Banff Mountain Film Festival, I highly encourage you to come check it out.
You don't have to be a filmographer.
Filmmaker.
You don't have to be creating these things to enjoy these things. So.
No, you can be a film fan. In fact, there's actually been a lot more film fans at the festival than there have been filmmakers, which was something they commented on and really appreciated. And even a lot of the filmmakers there liked it, because when us filmmakers get together, we just talk shop, and it's kind of boring because we're talking about the
you
same
make
shit.
the films for the fan.
Yeah, it's cool to hear what the people get out of it, and not just talk about what cameras you used and how you raised your money. All right. Anyhow, we'll put some links in the stuff, and thank you again for all your support, and we'll talk to you later.
Hope you made it through this.
Yeah. Adios.
The
Bye.
end.
Ciao.